Well, the weather on the face of it may be somewhat quiet at the moment, but there is still plenty of things going on and plenty of reason to stick around here on the YouTube channel. Thanks for clicking on to the Wednesday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. The sun is shining and there is a feel of spring in the air. Nights can still be cold, but the temperature here yesterday afternoon reached 13 Celsius, a very pleasant temperature indeed for early March. But before we continue with the video, be sure to like, share, and hit that subscribe button. Coming up this Sunday will be edition 84 of the Global Weather and Climate Report. It will be a live stream. It is becoming a little bit of a theme now, and I'm hoping to stick with the Sunday afternoon live stream. So take a little note, 4 p.m. Right here on Mark Vogan Weather on YouTube, and you can interact with myself, ask a question, and I will try my best to answer that question. So, like I say, there is some interesting things going on at the moment. By the way, temperatures in parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan, even northwestern India, has seen some of the coldest temperatures ever recorded for this time of the year. Major snowfall, deaths attributed to both snow and cold. So, a pretty serious situation unfolding across parts of southern Asia in recent days, and we'll look at that in the Global Weather Report this upcoming Sunday afternoon in a little bit more detail. We'll also look at the situation with California and what has been taking place there. But in today's video, I want to hone in on this subject. This is a tweet here. I think it was produced early hours of this morning or late last night by Dr. Simon Lee. And he says that the ongoing major SSW is strongly warming and stroke disrupting the vortex in the Arctic lower stratosphere, which may approach record warmth for the time of the year. So it at least looks like the stratosphere is primed to influence the troposphere, which I think is rather interesting. If we look at the graphics here, you can see the strong influence of that warming taking place within the stratosphere into the lower portions of the stratosphere. So it looks as if it's going to affect the troposphere, which is the layer within the atmosphere closest to Earth that essentially our weather resides in. But another interesting tweet here by, bear with me just a wee second, sorry. I thought this was worth showing also by Tomer Berg, and it's actually a comment based on that tweet by Dr. Simon Lee. There's a decent signal for anomalously weak, potentially record weak 100 HPA vortex later into March as well. Now, if we look at the GEFS extended here, and actually what's going on at the moment, I think is a byproduct of the stratospheric warming also taking place. We're seeing the strengthening of the block to the north of the UK, specifically over Scandinavia, and we do have weak easterly, southeasterly winds at the moment here. But as I've already said, there is no particularly cold air mass over Europe at the moment, so it's no beast from the east or anything like that, but it will be distinctly chilly. There will be a distinct east to west split in atmospheric conditions over the UK over the next several days here, with shower activity, convective shower, cold pool actually drifting on the southern flank of that Scandinavian high that kind of drifts over the British Isles. And with that cold or cooling at the 18,000 foot level and down to the 5,000 foot level, what you're doing is when you've got strong incoming solar radiation with a relatively mild air mass in the low levels, you have the warming at the surface and you've got the cold in the mid to upper levels. That then creates enhanced lift. It forces or attracts the atmosphere to rise. And then we see these convective showers and thunderstorms developing east and south of the UK, I think, over the next several days. We'll look at that hopefully in a little bit of detail in just a second. But going specifically by that tweet and talking about the reversal in the mean zonal winds within the stratosphere, the response down into the troposphere is quite apparent. Now, this is off the GFS extended. This is the upcoming 7 days of the model for the mean sea level pressure anomaly. So this is the anomaly compared to average in sea level pressure. You notice here that we've got relatively low level pressure down to the south of the UK and Ireland, while we've got very strong pressure to the north. So we've got the block to the north of the British Isles, and when you've got high pressure to the north, low pressure to the south, you've got easterly winds coming in, and I've already explained why it's not particularly cold. But if we continue to play through this loop, I hope it's clear enough for you. I know I can't actually expand the image any larger than it already is, unfortunately. But you can see, I want to show you the global picture because I think it represents quite a nice look in terms of explaining that tweet, what's going on within the stratosphere and what's going on within the lowest 20,000 feet of the atmosphere. And you can see here the UK is right here. There's that strong block. There's the negative underneath there. And this represents a drier than average theme also here. Play it through the loop. And this is going all the way to the middle portions of April, by the way. You keep an eye on that block, and it remains strong to the north of the UK, arguably extending from Scandinavia all the way across to Greenland, the Baffin Straits. And that is quite a negative NAO signal. Negative Arctic oscillation, negative North Atlantic oscillation. Drier theme the further north you go, wetter theme the further south you go. Southern portions of France, into Iberia, right the way across the Mediterranean basin, we're seeing increased rainfall with that block essentially on the northern side of the UK. That's forcing the jet both north up towards the far north of Scandinavia, but also undercutting to the south through southern France, Spain, and right the way across southern Europe. We're increasing the rainfall compared to average here. We're drying things out central and northern portions of Europe. So as we continue to play through, you see the strong block at the surface remaining across between Scandinavia and northern Canada here. There's the negative. Displaced jet stream further south to the south of the UK here. And that continues to be the case right the way through till the end of the month and even into the early portions of April here. You can see that we continue to have that block, low heights to the south and above average heights to the north. Let's have a look at the upper heights here. This is the 500 millibar geopotential height anomalies here. We skip right back to the here and now. There's the same idea. So this is the 20,000 foot level as opposed to right down at the surface. So you've got the block to the north, the negative to the south here, and our general flow is coming in from the east or the southeast here. So we play it right the way through the loop, and you can see here that the block continues to reside and arguably strengthen as we move towards the middle and second half of this month. We've got the weak negative over the UK and Ireland here, and possibly points further south here. So we've got the strong negative NAO signal here, indicative of that stratospheric warming that has taken place, and it looks as if the mean zonal winds will remain easterly for some time. So this, both at the surface and in the upper levels, continue right the way through the remainder of this month here. The question is, and I've been toiling with this idea of a warmer or colder than average March overall. So let's have a look at Europe in particular here. Let's go right back to the here and now. Let's have a look at precipitation, because I think we're going to see a dry north and wet south scenario. This is the upcoming 7 days of this model here, if I can get to the right chart. Is it the 7-day anomalies here? Just bear with me a wee second. It doesn't seem, well, yeah, I think it is actually. I apologise. You can see here largely dry on average across the majority of the UK and Ireland here. Look at the down across Iberia and across southern Europe. We've got wetter than average conditions here seen by the model. Now we continue to play through this loop. It remains dry to the north, but notice here that we're picking up a little bit more moisture across parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and southern England and Wales, continuing to stay drier than average across Scotland. If you notice, then as we continue to play right the way through towards the end of the month, we don't have a particularly wet signal, and you don't tend to have that when you've got a lot of blocking to the north of the British Isles and Ireland here. Finally, let's look at the temperature anomaly chart here of the model for the upcoming 7-day period. First, you can see here slightly cooler than average. Now, primarily that cooler than average is down the eastern side of Scotland here. Slightly warmer than average across the southeast of the UK. Slightly cooler than average across parts of central Wales. If you notice, warmer than average across Western Ireland. Average elsewhere. Look at central and southern France. Iberia, that's got quite a cold upcoming 7-day period to come, and that is because we're seeing a lot of rainfall and mountain snow continuing to play through the GFS extended, and we remain colder than average across the north, average to slightly warmer than average across more southern areas of the British Isles here. So that is quite interesting to see, actually. And remember what my March forecast is. It's actually for a somewhat warmer than average March. The question will be that if this block continues, if the easterly flow continues, then how much colder gets involved in the European pattern? If we start to see colder from, say, Central Asia, Far Eastern Europe start to get drawn westwards underneath the block, then we may start to see increasingly colder conditions for the time of the year, at least for mid to late March, early April. We could see that taking place here, but I'm still going to lean more towards the average, the slightly warmer than average March as it stands at the moment here. Looking specifically at the month to date in terms of the temperature anomaly, we'll have a look at this real quick, and then we'll look at the UK and Europe in particular. So this is how March is looking so far. Look at the United States, very warm compared to average. Let's look at the global picture. You can see here some standouts. Very warm over Greenland because of the block, because of the negative NAO pattern to start the month of March. Look at how cold Central and Southern Asia is compared to the North. Very warm Scandinavia, much of Europe, right the way across the top of Eurasia as a whole. And then you've got a lot of colder over both southern Kazakhstan, Mongolia, much of China, northern India, and then you've got all these countries around Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan, northwestern India. I did pretty well there, I think. Very cold across Western North America, if you notice here, and we've seen significant amounts of snow also in the last few days. Speaking of significant amounts of snow, it looks as if over a 4-day period there was 10.5 feet of snow recorded in one particular station in California. We'll look at this in a little bit more detail on the live stream on Sunday afternoon. But a recent tweet here by Colin McCarthy says that what an unbelievable comeback in California's snowpack has been made this year, going from 28% of normal on the 1st of January to 104% of normal today. This pretty much guarantees California will be drought free again this summer for a second year in a row. And we heard a lot about the perma-drought taking place in California. Boy, oh boy, hasn't that been blown out of the water. This was an interesting tweet here by Kayang Thang. I hope that's the right pronunciation. But the temperature was recorded in northern India of minus 25.6 Celsius, which that is despite cloud cover in the air preventing further cooling. Very impressive for early March. This looks as if it's one of India's coldest temperatures to start the month of March in recorded history. We've also seen remarkable cold in parts of Afghanistan and Pakistan in recent days as well. We'll look at that in more detail this upcoming weekend. And there's that 10.5 feet of snow falling inside 4 days. Remarkable stuff. So finally, to end the video today, let's have a look and see the specifics for the next few days. This is rainfall. This is the ECMWF. Total accumulated precipitation, and you can see a lot of rain to the west of the UK and Ireland, down across Iberia and across southern Europe as the jet gets split to the west of the continent. One arm goes north, one arm goes south. That southern branch goes right the way across southern Europe, bringing heavy precipitation. Hopefully, we'll get some heavy rainfall into the Catalonia drought region of northeastern Spain in the coming days. But look at the amount of rain expected across southern Europe now through till the middle portions of the month. Very significant rainfall indeed. Notice the UK, eastern and central areas of the British Isles will see shower activity on that east to southeasterly wind. Let's have a look at the 850s, by the way, because this is quite important. And you can see a little lobe of cold air riding underneath that block over Scandinavia. Notice here that 850s aren't particularly cold over Central Europe. Therefore, we don't have a beast from the east coming in, but we do have an easterly flow. We do have a block. We do have a blockade against Atlantic systems coming in from the west. They're getting diverted further south. But this cold air in the mid to upper levels is attracting lift within the atmosphere over the UK. Hence why we're going to see showers and thunderstorms developing in the days ahead. Looking at the overview chart, and we'll play right the way through the loop. There's that block over Scandinavia, diverting any Atlantic low pressure traffic to the south. We continue to see winds coming in from a east to southeasterly direction, but you notice the direction of these isobars. We're not drawing our air in from Western Russia. You can see here that it's actually coming in from Central Europe, where there is relatively mild temperatures, and that is why we're not seeing particularly cold temperatures with this particular Scandi block. Now, it looks as if as we push towards the upcoming weekend, area of low pressure will try to lift northwards, possibly bringing a weather front, bringing longer spells of rain. Also enhanced wind. We may start to get quite windy conditions late this week and into the early portions of the weekend also. And there, the ECMWF by Sunday has a system moving north, bringing a spell of heavier, more persistent rain in from a east to southeasterly direction. But you notice here, right the way through to the middle portions of the month, we continue to have that northerly block, keeping things relatively dry compared to average. I think I've spoken long enough. Like, share, and subscribe. See you again hopefully tomorrow with more. Bye for now.